I need you to get the ATEM unit. I can't. Nobody can see me. Hey there. What's up, wise people? You're tuning into this show, which makes you wise. That's my opinion. A wise consumer, a wise shopper. And that's what this show's all about. If this is the first time that you've tuned in, we're going to talk a little bit about what we do and just kind of explain how we can help you. That's the whole goal here, is to help consumers around the country, particularly in the construction industry, also with other types of businesses, any type of business, whether it be an attorney or a doctor or maybe an accountant or any other type of professional service, maybe a moving company that's maybe kind of in between construction and professional services. Anyway, so the reason why I started this show was because I've worked for a consumer advocate, and I was actually a business on that consumer advocate's referral list. And I got to tell you, it was phenomenal for me. It just helped my business grow tremendously. Why? Because people knew that they could trust me. And it just makes life a lot easier when you know you're dealing with somebody you can trust. You know, we're all obviously not experts at everything. So in order to be a good, educated shopper, we have to try to educate ourselves as much as possible. And with so much information out there, you can go to YouTube, you can go to Google, you can go pretty much anywhere, and you can research stuff. But what's funny is you're going to get conflicting information. And so what we want to try to do is try to bring all that conflicting information into one place where you can get the best information that you can possibly get to educate yourself, and also know that you can go to trustpatrick.com, click on Find a Pro right at the top of the page, and you can find a company that is pre-screened and background checked. Companies that I've checked out personally. I actually have hired a background check company to background check these companies. And it's not entirely up to me whether they get on or not. I actually have a team of people that we look at their background check. We look at everything. And sometimes it's so easy. We just go, yep, that's a good company right there. We would love to have them on our referral service. And then there's sometimes we go, well, what do you think of this? Is it something that's, important? Is it something that's not? And typically it's a quick, oh yeah, that's not, it's not something that affects their business, or it's something that, look, we don't care what people do on Friday and Saturday nights. That's my point. Whatever you do with your time on outside of work is really no one's business. That's my opinion. Does it reflect on who you are as a human being? I don't know. Can it? I don't know. There's so many things we could go into with that. Bottom line is that, let me just give you an example of the background checks that the company that we've hired to do our background checks does for us. So they actually do a criminal background check on the owner of the company, and then they do a background check, on the owner of the company. They check civil litigation. They check that person's reputation out. And we also do a credit check on the company itself, because we want to make sure that they're not being sued by other consumers. And if you as a homeowner or a consumer were to, let's just say that you wanted to hire, and we're going to talk about construction because that's really where this referral service is primo. If you were going to hire somebody, let's just say to remodel your kitchen, and you had 3 companies that had given you proposals, and you wanted to background check each of those 3 companies, right? Who's going to pay for it? You or the company? Now, I would imagine the company's probably going to go, nah, I've already done that. I've already, done a background check with, XYZ referral service. Maybe it's trustpatrick.com. Maybe it's a different referral service. So they're not going to really want to pay, especially because what we pay is approximately $100 to $150 per company. And that's like on the low end. If there's multiple owners, if maybe the owner has been married before and they've changed their name, it's more money. I mean, it just adds up. So sometimes it can run into the $200 to do a thorough, what we call actually, the company that does my background checks for us, what they call a best practices background check. And we make sure that they're insured. We make sure that their insurance is in force. We always know if it has lapsed or if they cancel it. So they can't just buy insurance and then drop their insurance. We'll get notified. We get notified that they've dropped their insurance. So we check these companies out thoroughly. And my point is that if you wanted to background check the 3 quotes that you have, if they wouldn't want to pay for it, then that would leave it up to you. Now you're talking $500, $600 to background check 3 companies and see which company you want to choose. The nice thing about TrustPatrick.com is we've done all that for you. We've actually set it up so that when you go and you click on Find a Pro, you can relax because you know that you're going to have a good company. Now, you can't totally relax because we can't predict what people are going to do in the future. We can only tell you what they've done in the past, right? We can never predict what anyone else is going to do in the future. So you can't let your guard down totally, but you can let it down quite a bit. So instead of trying to figure out a person and judge their character, and that's part of the process, I think you should work with someone that you like and you relate with and tends to talk in your language that answers your questions without maybe making you feel stupid for asking a question. I know there's contractors that are out there that do that, and they will do that. They will actually make you feel stupid when you ask questions. So anyway, you go to TrustPatrick.com, you click on Find a Pro, you find a pre-screened and background checked company that we have thoroughly vetted. We know they're insured. We know they have workers' compensation if it's required in their state. We know that they're a good company, and you can just rest easy, breathe easy, and know that now you've got 3 quotes, that you've got good companies, and I can assure you they're probably always going to be within 10% in pricing. Where you really have to be careful is if you're not using our referral service, or you use our referral service and we've only got, say, 1 company. By the way, we're still building our database of companies. So there may be an occasion where we either don't have anyone or you get 1 company, right? And if you get 1 company, you still need to get 3 bids. I always tell people it's really important to get 3 quotes, particularly if we don't have anybody in your area. Why? Because now it's hard. Yes, I agree. I know that some people say, oh my gosh, it's so much work. It's so much time. Well, guess what? Is it worth a couple $1,000s or several $1,000s, depending on the size of your project, in heartache that you're going to have to go through in the end? I've also found that some consumers are really worried about offending the company. Guess what? Who cares? Yeah, I don't mean be a jerk to them, but who cares if you offend them? I've had people actually call me and say, well, he's the only guy around here and I don't want him to get offended. Who cares? And if he gets offended, that's his problem. You are being a smart shopper and you're making sure that you're not going to get burned and ripped off. So anyway, so if you were going to do the background check yourself, it would cost you $600-$700. You don't want to do that. So again, you go to TrustPatrick.com, you find a good company. And if we don't have anybody in your area, we are open about this. We are going to send your request to our partner network, who also pre-screens and background checks their companies. I don't know how well they do it. I don't know to what extent they do it. So I can't tell you that these people can be trusted and you can breathe easy. I don't know that. I'm not saying that you can't trust them either. I don't know. All I know is I haven't background checked them. So therefore, I would probably be cautious, is basically what I'm getting at. If you are visiting one of our other websites, obviously I'm at trustpatrick.com. I'm a consumer advocate. By the way, I am not an attorney. I do not have a law license. I don't practice law. I'm not going to try to tell you anything that would even begin to come close to that. So we have our other website called allaboutdriveways.com. I started that 10 years ago, and that's actually a good segue because we're going to be talking about on today's show, we're going to be talking about concrete driveways, okay? But anyway, All About Driveways, if you go to All About Driveways, same thing. We pre-screen and background check the companies that are listed with that website as well. I don't remember the point I was getting at, but anyway, so today we're going to be talking about concrete driveways, okay? And I guess what I want to get at here is a couple things. We're going to talk about a specific portion of concrete driveways, not just generally speaking, but let's just say you in particular, if you happen to have a concrete driveway that is a couple decades old, maybe a decade old, I don't know, and you've got a lot of cracks in it, A, or B, you've got a lot of spalling. I'm going to bring up a picture here for you because I want to show you what I'm talking about. Can you bring that up for me? All right, perfect. So you can see in this picture right here, here is some cracked concrete, right? And this does not mean that this driveway needs to be replaced. Now, there are some people out there that would say, oh, I would just replace it. I don't want any cracks in my driveway, and I don't want to run the risk of it cracking again, right? But, this doesn't necessarily need to be replaced. You can actually fix this. Okay, let me show you the next picture. The next one here is just a different view. I think this actually may be a road. You can see the curb on the side, but the bottom line is a driveway. They still get cracks the same. They're probably not as thick, but you can get cracks in it, and you can actually fix those cracks. You can repair those cracks. You don't have to completely remove and replace the driveway, right? In this next picture here, we've got some spalling, and I actually did a video talking about spalling. It was a very short video on YouTube. It may be on this channel. I think it is on our channel here at Consumers Corner, where we talked about, if you live in a cold, snowy region, how should you, what should you put on the ice on your driveway to keep from slipping and falling? And you should watch that video because it's actually pretty cool. It makes sense. And it's one of the companies that we used to have on our referral list that actually retired. They're actually great people. They retired, and this was a video. But you can see the spalling in this video. And what spalling is the cream of the concrete actually flakes off of the top, and you can see the aggregates that are exposed. You can see the rocks. If you look real closely at that picture, you can see the rocks that are exposed. And then, of course, if you look around the areas of the rocks, that's where the cream is at the top. Now, I'm not going to go into detail as to why this happens, but there are several reasons why this happens. One of them being salt or chemicals, and the other being improper installation. But we're not going to go into that right now. So anyway, finishing up here about these. Oh, wait a minute here. Hold on one second. Let me show you one more picture here. Where is it at? Okay, here's now what you can do, and what I was getting at is you can actually repair your driveway with what's called an overlay. Okay, so this is a picture of a concrete driveway that I actually got to watch being overlaid. You can see it before. I don't have any close-up shots of it. It was several years ago that we took these pictures. But anyway, you can see this concrete driveway before, and then we have a picture of it afterwards. You can see how beautiful that is. That's an overlay. Now, I want to go into overlays here and tell you a little bit about these overlays, okay? So first of all, let me back up. So if you've got a concrete driveway or even a concrete patio or a pool deck, something like that is cracked up, it doesn't look good, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to remove and replace it, okay? You can actually do what's called an overlay. Now, there are different types of overlays. Also, the other things that you can do, if it's not really cracked up, but it has spalling, you can actually have it sandblasted, and then you can actually color it. You can have it stained whatever color you want, and they can seal it and make it look really nice. And that right there is probably going to be competitively priced with removing and replacing it. Now, if you're an environmentally sound person and you don't want to, break up concrete and you just want to make it look good, I get that, right? So maybe we want to be, recycle and not necessarily, have to have a brand new driveway. You can actually sandblast it and stain it and color it and make it look really nice if it's not really cracked up. Now, if you don't mind the cracks, you can still do that, okay? But then there's a little bit more expensive alternative to removing and replacing, and that is an overlay. Now, I haven't looked into the prices of overlays lately. and I'm sure the price has changed. I don't know by how much, and we'll have one of our experts on here in a little bit to talk about it. But I can tell you that typically you can remove and replace your concrete driveway, typically, for probably far less than you could by doing an overlay. It's a very labor-intensive job to overlay a driveway. This particular picture that I showed you earlier of the house, the before picture and the after picture, that was about a 4 or 5 day process. Whereas if you were going to remove and replace it, it would be maybe 2 days, 1 day, 2 days, and then you can't drive on it for a few days, 4 or 5 days, and then you get your driveway back. But this overlay process is very labor intensive, and a lot of the products that go into it can be fairly expensive as well. And so with these concrete overlays, there's 3 types of overlays. The first one is just a squeegee overlay, and they're not in any particular order, is a squeegee overlay where they're going to fix the cracks in the driveway, they're going to fix any spalling, and then they're going to overlay the driveway with a squeegee, with a chemical to make it look a different color. Okay, or you can go back with gray, you can go back with whatever color you want. And then there is a spray overlay, and sometimes you can combine the two. I actually saw a pool being done where they had a bunch of cracks in it. That's in another video that we're actually going to be putting out here soon, and I'll link to that video from this video when we get that done. But anyway, that pool deck was pretty cracked up pool deck, and what they did was they went in and they fixed all the cracks, and they power washed it. They did some what's called, I forget the name of it. They use a machine to actually scarify the top of the surface of the concrete so that the chemical will stick to it really well. It's drawing a blank in my mind here. It is a scarifier. I don't remember. Anyway, a blaster, a shot blaster is what it is, and it will blast the surface of the concrete, and it will get it, a little bit smoother, and get it prepared to take the new chemical or overlay, whatever type of overlay you're doing. So the first one is just a squeegee overlay. The second one is a spray overlay. The third one is actually, I'm going to say this one is the third one. You can do a combination of both, where you do a squeegee color and then you do a real nice spray overlay over the top, and you can do a knockdown, you can do a swirl. It's kind of like drywall. If you've ever done drywall, it's very similar to drywall in that you do a spray overlay and you knock it down. Like if you've ever seen the drywall where they spray it on, they let it dry for a little bit, and then they call it knockdown, and they run a knife over the top of it and it flattens it out. You can do the same thing with that. And then the third type of overlay is where they do a 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch thick overlay of actual mortar. I can't remember the exact terminology for that. But the picture that I showed you, pull that back up real quick, Christy, that picture of that house. I'll pull that back up here. Okay. You can see this here on the edges. It was about I think 3/8 to 1/2 inch overlay of stamped mortar on the brown edges. And then the middle of it was actually a spray overlay, and they put tape in there to give the appearance of big stones. And then once they sprayed that overlay on, they then pulled the tape up, and that's what gave that effect of it looking like a big stone, different stones pieced together. So anyway, so you've got the 4 different types, I should have said. The first one is a squeegee. Second one is a spray. The third one could be a combination of a squeegee and a spray. And then the fourth one would be a 1/2 inch thick or so of an overlay, of an actual overlay. And so price-wise, like I said, you're going to get into probably a lot more expensive of price on an overlay driveway as you would if you just remove it and replace it. But again, there's things to factor in. Like I said, maybe you're an environmentalist type of person and you just don't want to see that concrete going to waste and you just want to reuse it. I get it. I would do the same thing. There are certain things that I do that. I would much rather do that. It's being a little bit more friendly to the environment. Maybe you have a beautiful home and you've worked hard your whole life and you just want a new driveway. Maybe you want to widen it. Maybe you want to, move it. Maybe there's several different things you could want to do. Maybe you got to, when you drive into your driveway, your bumper scrapes and you want to regrade the driveway or something. Well, yeah, then you would just remove it and replace it. So it's not always that you could do this, but there are times you just want to remove and replace it. If you've got a really cracked up driveway and you are considering an overlay, you definitely, if you don't have the budget to do an overlay, remove it and replace it. Okay, that's going to be the best, probably most cost efficient way. Not always, but probably typically most of the time is going to be the most cost efficient way, unless you've got a extremely large driveway, and even then doing an overlay on something like that would probably be pretty expensive. So that's kind of how the overlay process is. Now, how does the overlay process work? Well, basically what they do is they come in, they repair the cracks. And the way I've seen it done, I haven't seen it done any other way, is that they will actually route out the cracks with a grinder and probably make them look a little bit worse before they make them look a little better. And then the second thing that they do is they will cut some slices into the concrete that they could put little pieces of metal in there, and they call it stitching. And it kind of holds that crack a little bit better together. And then they put, I believe it's a epoxy or epoxy poly into the crack with some silica sand or play sand to toughen up that filler. And then once they're done with that, then they grind all that off. It's almost, like I say, it's almost like drywall. If you've ever watched someone finishing drywall, you fill in the crack, right? And as you fill in the crack, they get all the edges and the points off and the high spots off, and then they fill it again and they fill it again, and eventually that drywall, you can't even see where that seam was. It's seamless, right? And with concrete overlays, in my opinion, if I was going to have my driveway done, I'd want it done like drywall. I wouldn't want to risk spending the kind of money it would cost to overlay my driveway and have the crack still be visible in some way, shape, or form. Maybe the crack itself is invisible, but I would want the crack to be invisible. And I would probably, if I was going to spend that kind of money on a driveway, I'd probably pay a little bit more to have them make sure that it was nice and smooth before they did the overlay. And so they fix the cracks, they fill them in, they then shot blast the surface. Sometimes they can sandblast the surface so that the coating that they put on it will actually adhere to it and it sticks real good. It's kind of like sanding metal or sanding something to get it so that it will stick to the paint, or whatever you're doing will stick to it. And then they'll do their squeegee overlay or their spray overlay, or the 1/2-inch thick overlay, or 3/8 or whatever the thickness may be. And you can do stamped patterns with that thickness, by the way, the thicker stuff, which is really cool. I've actually seen that done a few times. It's pretty cool. You can do stamped that looks like stone on an old sidewalk or a patio or pool deck or driveway or something like that. So anyway, the thing about these overlays is that, in my opinion, the cost of them, I would want to make sure I was going to get it done right. I would want to make sure that the company that I'm hiring knows exactly what they're doing. They don't just have a bunch of pretty pictures up on their website that say, hey, look at the work we've done. How do you know it's theirs? And I would also say, hey, show me some driveways that you've done, and I'm going to go take a look at them. Yeah, it's going to take you more time, but it's going to save you so much headache in the long run. It's just the headache that comes from a job not being done right the first time. It's a little bit of preparation can get rid of that. We call it short-term pain for long-term gain. Yeah, it's painful. You got to go drive places and see driveways, and you got to go verify. And if you see something and I would ask for something. Show me something you did 5 years ago. Show me something you did maybe a year, two or 3 years ago, and then show me something you've done recently, so you can see the differences and you can see how they have aged. Now, obviously, another thing that's going to happen, and this is just the nature of the business, these companies are going to show you their best driveways, right? They're going to always show you their best driveways. They're not going to show you one that's their worst. Of course, they're not going to. But at least you're doing your due diligence, right? And that's what's important. Now, again, if you hire a company off of trustpatrick.com, we've already done all that. We've verified. We actually call their references. And we get pictures of their driveway or whatever the work that they did before we will consider that reference a viable reference. So we've already done all that for you. But if you're doing this on your own and you don't have trustpatrick.com, then these are the things that you need to do. So now listen, I've got someone on the phone who emailed me not too long ago about her driveway. And she actually had her driveway done, and it's turned out to be an absolute headache for her. And I feel bad for her. I've looked at the pictures. Quite frankly, I don't know. Did we get the owner of the company on? We tried to get him on the phone. We tried to call him, and he didn't actually respond. I guess I called him several days ago, didn't hear back, and then I heard back from him yesterday. I called him. Now that doesn't mean anything. I'm not saying that makes him a bad person. I'm not saying he's done anything wrong here. I would like to get his side of the story, but I've got Sarah on the phone. Sarah, are you there?
I am here.
Hi, Sarah. So I've got Sarah on the phone. Sarah is going to tell us a little bit about her driveway, and while she's talking about it, I'm going to try to bring up some pictures here so you can see what she's referencing. And, as a consumer, all I would ask is that let's not, jump to conclusions and automatically say, oh, this contractor was a bad contractor. Let's just take the story. Let's hear her side of the story. Let's take it for what it's worth. And then eventually, if we don't hear from the owner of the company today, we will try to get him on another segment, and we'll link to that other show so that you can hear his side of the story. And then, you're certainly more than welcome to comment on the video and tell us what you think. If you think it was a great job, if you think it was a poor job, or what you feel it was. So do me a favor. Sarah, tell me a little bit about your story. Tell me a little bit about your home and how long you've lived there, and kind of what was happening at the time that you hired this company to do the work on your driveway.
All right. Well, this has been an ongoing 2-summer project, and it's still not completed to date. So I'm going to do my best to express the appropriate timeline.
Did you
know I am a layperson?
Hang on one sec, Sarah. Did you just say 2 summers? So it's been a 2-summer project, and it's still not finished.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So pictures 1 through 3 are kind of what it looked like before. I have some before pictures.
Okay, hang on one second here. I'm going to pull up these pictures.
And prior to signing the contract with the Northwest Custom Concrete, Gilbert, who runs this business, assured me he could match the brick colors of the house. That was important to me. And it's important to note that because that is what made the decision for me to go into contract with him.
Okay, so I'm sitting here.
This contract.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm look. We've got one of the pictures of your driveway up here. Right now, it's visible, and this is the one that I believe is before. It's the very first picture. I don't know if you probably can't see it, but it basically shows your driveway. It shows your 2 garage doors, and it was before anything was done.
Yep, I see it.
Okay. And I'm sorry, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay, so May 2017, we signed the contract. We had a lot of conversation pertaining to the color and design. They did what I contracted for is a front porch, a driveway, and a back patio. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit because to me it's important for resolution. As we discussed designs, Gilbert sent a picture and mentioned a large brick pattern for the driveway, thinking it might help any potential future cracks. So when we talked about it, I mentioned it might look very busy as the driveway is large and the house is brick, and I asked if he thought this was the only way to solve the concern. He said no, he could fill the existing cracks and then make cuts and do something else to reinforce. If a new crack would surface, it would then hopefully go along the lines of the cut. We agreed on the brick border pattern and a matching foundation color. And then I asked his opinion of this option, if this was something he would do if it was his driveway. He said yes. He felt this would be a good choice. So he started the work at the end of June in 2017. And it was with the understanding it would be completed by August, as we had 2 weddings in our backyard in August.
Gotcha. So you had so you wanted your driveway to look good for the weddings.
Correct.
Okay.
And to look good anyways for us to enjoy. But yes, that was the time frame for the weddings. It was kind of the drive for it.
Which have come and gone.
Yes. So cracks were filled, overlay was done, but there were gaps that were larger than perhaps was intended. So Gilbert felt he could fix them with the matching color filler. At the beginning of August, he had an employee unsupervised come out to fill in the gaps. The employee, unfortunately, also filled in intentional cuts and joints. You can see this in picture number 4.
Okay, let me get to that picture. So when you say he filled in the intentional, so this picture number 4, what we're looking at here is you've got your border, your brick border, and it looks like it's probably in front of your garage doors. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We've got a probably 60 to 90 second lag on live versus us on the phone here. So, okay, and so those cracks he filled in, and what is that? Is that just a silicone crack seal?
Well, I wouldn't know the product, but it's some kind of filler that
Okay.
you bought, so maybe.
Gotcha. So when you say intentional cracks, I just want to tell people real quick that are watching, intentional cracks, what she means by that are controlled joints. So they put controlled joints in the concrete when they pour it, because concrete is very obviously hard. And as you know, your soil is always going to move a little bit, some places more than others. It's those controlled joints are so that instead of getting cracks out into the middle of the field of your concrete driveway, it cracks into, or patio or whatever, it cracks in those controlled joints. Now, it doesn't always work like that. And by the way, there are some people that email me and send me pictures of a driveway that they had installed a couple months ago and it's got a crack in it. And that's a bummer. But the reality is it's not if a concrete driveway is going to crack, it's when and where. And unfortunately, it does happen sometimes out in the field. It's just the nature of the product. So anyway, I'm sorry, Sarah. So go back to your picture here. So he came out and he filled in all of the controlled joints with this filler or whatever it was, and then what?
So that's just a picture showing that where it was filled it shouldn't be, but the other ones he didn't even necessarily fill the crack. He went around it. It was just not well done.
Yeah, it doesn't look very
sloppy.
good.
Well, that's actually showing a good one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I can see he got a little
Gilbert.
bit on your brick pattern here, and which, by the way, I think the brick actually looks pretty decent. Does it match your house?
Yeah. Yeah, the brick is, yes. The coloring, he did a really good job. It matches the house. The brick, everyone was very ecstatic over it. Yeah.
Good deal. Okay.
So I called Gilbert. He came over, and he said he'd have to dig all the filler out, that it would possibly chip some of the overlay, so it's going to look probably worse before it looks better. And then this is where I also brought up, because I noticed an oily spot on the patio, the picture number 5, which Gilbert thinks it was done from an employee dropping a piece of a lemon bar at a crucial time.
Gotcha.
So that's that picture number 5. And then so looking at everything, Gilbert he apologized. He thanked us for being so patient, and he promised to make this even better than it was at the beginning. He just said he'd make it right.
Gotcha.
So the crew came, they did some work on the driveway, but like I said, the wedding was around the corner, so we decided to wait to finish. And then about this time, we noticed the initial crack repair work was still visible through the overlay. And we received a call from a neighbor.
Is that in the next picture?
It'll be picture number 6, but yeah.
Okay, so picture number 6, I see it. So the crack is going through the field and then into the bricks and right up to the grass.
Yeah, what's on my screen still, like I said, there's a delay. It's the oil spill. So I wondered if you had an opinion about lemon bars. Well,
look, it's possible. It's possible, but the reality is that that could be probably cleaned up with a good degreaser. I would have to verify that with some of the manufacturers of the overlay. I would imagine it could be, but you could probably clean that with a little bit of degreaser. Yeah.
Well, it's still there as of today, and he hadn't been able to get it off. So.
Gotcha.
Okay. So anyways, I received a call from a neighbor. She has like a 2-story house, and she asked, she's like, is he done doing his job? She's basically saying, you might want to come up here and see how this looks. I really didn't need to, but I did, because I could tell just from ground level that. So
he was doing her house as well?
Nope, doing ours, but she's right next to us, and she's looking from, an aerial view, I guess.
Oh, I got
you. 2-story, so she's looking down on the driveway, and she was like, I don't think you're going to like the way this looks. It doesn't look good. You can see all the repair work. it didn't, yeah. So she, like I just said, it wasn't like I'm the consumer and I'm being over picky. Like, no, my neighbors are like, are you happy with this? They could see it. So fast forwarding to spring, summer 2018, right? So he said he's going to come back next year. So now we're on to the next summer. So I sent him many unanswered texts, phone calls to see when they're coming out. And I think it was July when they end up coming out, but what they ended up doing was coming at the very end of a long day because, their summer schedule had started.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, limited lighting. They were tired. They were saying they were hungry. They're telling me everything they had to do that day. I'm feeling bad for them. It just wasn't the best situation in that regard. They're just trying to fit me in, and it just wasn't good. So I just told them, because I already paid them in full last year, which I don't know if you've ever talked about that before, but I did pay them even though the job wasn't done.
Yeah.
So I just told them.
It's look, I get it. I mean, the thing is that, so from a contractor standpoint, I get it. Maybe they want to try to squeeze it in at the end of the day or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily make you feel comfortable because you're like, oh, okay, I was important when you were putting it in, but now that I've got some warranty work and things are going wrong, I'm not quite as important. That's the way it feels, right, as a homeowner, right?
Honestly, I wouldn't have even cared, but they were complaining to me about their day and their long day and their hungry. So I'm feeding them, and I'm feeling more just bad for the crew, him doing that to the crew when they're obviously not tired and not enjoying it. So how good of a job are they going to do here?
Yeah. And then the other thing to mention too is that I always tell people, and please don't take it as criticism, but I always tell people you've got to hold back some of the money until things are done, because until that is done, once a company gets their money, they're done. They don't, in their mind, they're done. Yeah. They got paid. They're done. They've done what they were contracted to do. Happy or not, we got paid. And of course their comeback could easily be, well, if she wasn't happy, why'd she pay? And the reality is that you and I, you sound to me like you are a very sweet person, and you trusted him, and you said, hey, you know what? I know he's going to fix it. They've been sending people here, and you paid him. But in commercial contracts, in companies that I've worked with before, we've always held back at least 10%, if not more, depending on the size of the job. So I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
So anyways, I said that they could wait to complete. I want them to complete their immediately promised paid projects because, again, I knew that was their income. And so I was fine to wait, but to please put aside some days just to dedicate to me after they did that. So that was the end of August when Gilbert came out. And again, I asked him if we needed to do a pattern to help conceal the cracks, and I was okay with that. But he said no, he did not think it was necessary because they were using a different product to fill the cracks, and they had a new process, a one-step color sealant, which would cover the repairs so they didn't bleed through. So at that point, I mentioned my concerns on matching colors with this new way he's doing it, and he said they had several colors, and we should be able to find one.
Now, if you don't mind, let me just ask you a quick question. Is there a picture that shows it? Is this next picture with the 3 or 4 or 5 different spots of colors trying to match it?
So that's going to be picture number 7.
Okay. And
they forgot to leave.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Good. No, go ahead.
So my question is this: so you called them up and you were unhappy with the fact that the cracks were visible in the field of the con. I call this the field. So you got your borders that he did, and then the field is where you're pretty much driving, right? And you told him that you were not happy with that because you could still see the cracks. Is that correct?
Yes, all the repair work was bleeding through. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then his fix was to come and do what, another overlay over the top and try to match the same color?
Yes. So there were a lot more cracks as well. So he said he had a new filler product that would work better. What they used last year just didn't work well. They don't know why, but he had a different product to fill the cracks. And then he said he also had, it was a 1-day process, the sealant color. He said it would cover the repair work, so you wouldn't see it.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you tried to match the color, and obviously that didn't happen.
they gave me 5 colors. So I called, I text. I'm like, we need to talk. And then he sent me a website that had 14 colors, but they didn't match even close. I said, I need to talk to him. I had questions. I'm just trying to reach out to him. He just says, I just need to pick one in a text. That's all I got. You just need to pick one. So I was trying to find if we could mix colors or what we could do. Basically, he said, this is what we have. You just need to pick one. So September 5th, I settled on a taupe color.
And when you say September 5th, I'm sorry, was that September 5th of the first summer, or was this last summer?
No, this is,
so this is a year later. I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2018.
Okay, gotcha.
So he said the color arrived on the 20th. I am knowing there was still work to be done before he did that, because he started some of the work, but they didn't finish filling and repairing. And so I just asked why the weather was decent, if he could come back, but he said he was too busy. Later, unbeknownst to me, he did repair it on the 24th. And the reason I say unbeknownst to me is because he didn't communicate he was coming and didn't communicate he did any work at the house, didn't tell me he'd even been at the house. And that was kind of a pattern for him. But I kind of like to know when someone's at my house. If
Sure.
I'm reaching out and trying to figure out when they're going to do something, I like to know that they've been there.
Yeah. So this picture that I have up right now on the screen, you can see on your screen, you can see the different colors. I switched it over to the field where you can still see the cracks. Hang on one second here now. You should be able to see it. And so this is what you were not happy with. So was this before he came back, or is this is the final product right now? This is it.
Yep.
So this is it right now. This is how he left it.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
So September 25th, this is where I'm getting to. So September 25th, he sent Chris, one of his employees, to apply the colored filler, stating that something came up, he couldn't be there. And when I arrived at the house, I saw it was not going to cover the repair areas, meaning I was going to see that large smear of product used over top of the crack. So I asked Chris to call Gilbert, which he did, and he still states Gilbert said it would cover it and to continue. So these are the pictures, 8, 9, and 10, that show him finishing and what it looked like. Then I asked Chris why he didn't finish the patio, and he said Gilbert told him to leave it. When pressed, he said he didn't know why. Gilbert had told me that everything would be done in one day, and that's why I was questioning.
Gotcha. So now I'm looking at these 3 pictures here, and my question is did he come back and he overlaid the entire area, or did he just do the cracks?
The whole thing.
So the whole thing.
Driveway.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, otherwise it would have been 2 different colors.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why I say it, because I see 2 different colors right here looking at this picture. I don't know what you see on your end, but I see the crack with, if you liken it to drywall, it would be like having drywall mud in the crack, and it's not painted yet. So I see two different colors there.
That's just because like you were talking about stitching and epoxy and sand fill, and I didn't see him do that. I saw him put that filler, like you've seen before, in it,
mm-hmm.
and then just sand the top. But it's not even the filler just in the crack. It's smeared all around it.
Right, on either side of it.
On either side, yeah, largely.
Yeah.
Like if I was putting something together with super glue, I would only get it on that seam, not.
And if you got it all over, you'd probably, pardon me, figure out a way to get it off of everything else, right?
Yes.
So.
Exactly. After many unanswered calls, texts, I received the response he had to reorder more sealer. That's why he didn't finish the patio. So pictures 11, 12, and 13 are showing areas on the patio that need to be finished.
Okay, so let me back up here, if you don't mind. I'm gonna. So this picture that I see right now, I don't know if this is your patio, or if what I'm looking at here. So I'm gonna.
Yes.
What's that?
It's 11, 12, and 13.
Well, I can't see the numbers for some reason, but.
Okay, so 11 is you're gonna see the driveway,
here's 11.
some brick.
Yeah, I see 11. So 11, can you got it up? Okay, so 11 here, you see, if you took the picture standing on your patio?
Yeah.
And that's your original patio. There's no coating on it. There's nothing on it.
Correct.
Okay. And what's the crack here? I mean, it looks like this is the earlier picture we were looking at where it had already started cracking, or no?
No, that's a different one beside it.
Okay.
But that was just a crack that he put stuff on to. That was the repair work he came and did on the 25th.
And so this still looks like this right now today?
Yes. The next 3 pictures, it's what it looks like today.
This is what it looks like right now. Okay, so I got that one and this third one. And so what has he said about these? Have you called him to ask him about fixing these?
Well, we're stuck because I told him that I did not want that other color on my patio, and so I texted him that I didn't want the filler on my patio and explained why, and emphatically said I was not willing to compromise on the patio because we spent a lot of time on the patio with friends and family. So it was important to me that it looks nice. And then I also questioned him on those 3 bricks because they're like a bright pink and they don't match the rest of the border. You can see the border, all the bricks are a little bit different shades.
Yeah.
And you see that picture number 14. And he said the pink on the 3 bricks would darken with the filler, but they're going to darken all the same, which means they're all going to look the same.
Hold on. He told you what?
That when he puts that filler over that, so if you look at picture 14,
yeah,
when he puts the filler over those bricks, that they will darken and look like the rest of the border.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So I understand that concrete may crack after some time, right? However, I do have to say, my husband and I are both surprised how quickly it's cracked.
Sure.
It seems like every time they do a repair, within a month or 2, there are more cracks. And picture number 15, that's a picture that shows the cracks just since they've been here last. It's a new crack on number 15.
Sure.
And then we're concerned about the visibility of the repair work, both the new and the old. And picture number 16 shows a fresh repair that has not had sealant on it yet. And you can see how bright that repair work is and how white it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, are you going to be able to see this after you put a sealant on it like all the rest? I don't know why it'd be any different. Or is it going to look like the picture number 17? Is it going to look like that?
Well, a good indicator would be to go and spray it with water. That'll tell you what it's going to look like, because it's going to give you a good indication. It's not going to be exact, but it's going to be a good indication.
Well,
now, you mentioned something about in pictures 15, I think. Yeah, 15. You say the cracks are coming back, and there is one thing that could possibly be causing this, and it could be. Oh, actually, there's multiple things that could be causing it. It could be the ground is shifting. It could be. Do you ever see water come up through these?
No.
Okay, so it's probably not water. There's really no way to know for sure what's causing it, but I guess I would have to talk to one of my guys. I've got some concrete experts that, matter of fact, I don't know if one of them's on the line right now, that he might be able to don't bring him on yet, but he might be able to talk about that one. It's number 15 if you're listening. And so, okay, a couple quick questions. Let me ask you this.
Is that crack in the concrete or is it a crack in the overlay?
Well, let me ask you a question. Are these cracks that were fixed, or are these completely new cracks?
Number 15 is a new crack since they were here last.
So they're completely new cracks. They weren't in the concrete before?
Correct.
That's interesting. That's something that I would not have the answer to why that would be cracking. I can't imagine the overlay causing more cracks. I mean, how old is that driveway if you know?
I don't know. It'd be over, what do you think? I mean, we've been here 6 years, so, but this house is 68, so I don't know.
So the odds are...
My neighbor would know.
Oh, really? Okay. So we know it's at least 6 years, and it looks to me to be older than that. Quite frankly, I would guess it to be in the 20-year range. So... Yeah. Okay.
It didn't look nice and new when we moved in 6 years ago, so I know it's older than that, for sure.
Gotcha. So now I'm actually on picture 18, and I see new, and then I see old color we like. Now, is the old color of your original concrete?
No, so that's the first time he did the porch.
Gotcha.
So that's the color we like, where it says that's the color we agreed on when we did this whole project.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. And so then when he came back the second time and put the second color on, it's the one that's marked as new, which is not even what you wanted. So okay, I'm not quite sure I understand why he would do that, but we'll have to try to get his side of the story.
No choices. Those are the only color choices we had. There are no other choices.
Yeah.
That's why he hasn't done our patio, because he wants to do it that color, and I'm like, no, I don't want. It just looks like concrete.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not. I mean, I can tell you right now, the seam between the bricks and that it's terrible. You know, I mean, they should have at least taped it, in my opinion, but I don't know. Maybe they've got a good reasoning for why they did it like that. So let me ask you a question. When you originally started looking at having your driveway repaired, did you get any quotes to remove and replace your driveway and patios?
No, I did not. We looked. How do I say it? We looked at doing. What's the word called? Just escaped me. Yeah, pavers.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, interlocking pavers. And the price was probably pretty high. Those are pretty expensive.
It was very high.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of the rationale. It's like, oh, well, we could get pavers for the wedding for our patio, or we could spend like the same amount of money and get the whole driveway done.
Gotcha. And if you don't mind my asking, how much did you pay for this entire driveway?
It was just under $15,000.
So under $15,000, 2 years later, you still have issues. You're not happy with the project. Let me ask you a question. Have you tried to contact him prior to contacting us?
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. So, yeah, the last interaction with him where I've sent texts, left messages, I asked him to call my husband because I thought this might help with the resolution. Mm-hmm. But he did not and has not, despite my husband even calling, leaving several messages and texts.
Well, you know why, right?
At least over 30.
Yeah, because he's already been paid. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's part of the reason why. He's already gotten his money, so for him, he's just. And of course, I think I do remember something. Well, I'll let him tell me that. But anyway, okay. So, is there any more pictures after this? Oh yeah, there is the patio. That's the. Okay.
The last one I had was just 20 and 21. That's the before and after.
20.
It's just showing.
20. Okay. So you can see, the brick pattern looks pretty decent. You can see if I swipe between the two of them. Yeah, and that just, I mean, I'll be honest with you. If it were my driveway, I don't think I would be very happy with that. I wouldn't be happy with the final result. Even if the cracks were coming back, I would probably be okay with that because that's the nature of things, but it doesn't look good. Now, that's my opinion. Maybe we've got some viewers that are watching right now that wouldn't mind, leaving a comment or, by the way, I do have an expert that is on my referral list with allaboutdriveways.com and Trust Patrick. And his name is Yvonne, and Yvonne is with Integra Construction of Colorado. And Yvonne is actually a very smart guy, Sarah. You'll be glad to probably hear what he has to say. He is actually a chemist. And Yvonne played a big role in the runways at the Denver International Airport. And he designed, I don't know if it was the concrete there, but he's a chemist. I was actually kind of blown away. Not that I should be, but I'm not used to a concrete guy coming up to me and going, yeah, I'm a chemist. So anyway, Yvonne, can you hear me? Are you on the air?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So Yvonne, this is Sarah. Sarah, this is Yvonne. And Yvonne, I know that you've looked at the pictures and you've been doing concrete for how long now?
Well, it's going to be a little bit over 18 years now.
Okay. And based upon what you've seen, is there anything, like you've heard a lot of the questions that we've asked, is there anything that just immediately strikes you as something's not right here? Or do you think, what's your opinion of this?
Well, first of all, I apologize. I couldn't hear any of the conversation. I don't know. The phone was too far away, I guess. I couldn't hear the conversation. I'm looking at the pictures, and my understanding is this client was asking for an overlay, pretty much,
Yeah. Yep.
which an overlay pretty much is supposed to cover the entire surface.
Right.
An overlay, it starts with an eighth of an inch, it goes up to a quarter of an inch, and it looks like there's some kind of like a brick pattern overlay at the edges, at the landing, some steps, and at the bottom of the driveway, as I can see the pictures.
Now, just so
However-
you know, sorry to interrupt you. I believe that they did either a spray or a squeegee overlay. Can you confirm that, Sarah?
The first or second time?
The first time and the second time.
The first
Wow.
time, the way they did it was more of a spray
Okay.
with some texture. The second time, they just did the squeegee. And
They-
that's why he doesn't want to do the, because I said, just do what you did the first time back on my patio. And he doesn't want to because it's more than a day product.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm sorry, Yvonne. Didn't mean to interrupt
Okay.
you. Go ahead.
Okay, so to me it sounds like the gray portion of the driveway, it doesn't look like an overlay. If it was a spray overlay, that's not really an overlay. That's more like a sealer. When you spray
It was
or
a silver
roll.
colored filler.
Okay, all right, perfect. So that's where I was going. There is a chemical, there is an acid mixture chemical that you have to mix with the sealer, and you can bring color to the driveway, but that's not an overlay. That's only used to change the color or to bring back the color, as well as you're sealing it. But that's not an overlay. An overlay is more like what he did on the brick pattern. That's gonna be like an eighth of an inch thick. In an overlay, you are covering the surface. That's why you can see different colors now, like red, kind of like a purple, dark purple. But you cannot see the gray anymore because you're covering the surface. On the middle, the gray driveway is not in overlay. That has no overlay at all whatsoever.
So,
It's just being filled with the color.
okay, so we talked about in the beginning of the show, Yvonne, that there's three types of overlays. There's a squeegee overlay, a spray overlay, and then a half inch to a 3/8 to a half inch
An eighth.
thick overlay, right?
Yeah.
And so you're saying that this isn't overlaid at all, or you're just saying it's not a half inch thick overlay?
It's not the thick overlay.
Correct.
Now, everything comes down to the contract, right? When you hire a legit company, the company comes to you and says, okay, this is what I'm gonna apply to your driveway, and this is the process, and this is what you should be expecting. Everything has to be in writing because the customer has to know what's happening. Because if he says, you know what, it's gonna be like a spray overlay, like a basically a sealer with the color, that doesn't cover cracks. That does not gonna cover anything. You're just changing the color and you're sealing it. So you're sealing the color change. So now your concrete is gonna look different color now.
Gotcha.
But that doesn't cover anything.
So
Now,
Sarah, if you don't mind my asking for 1 second, did he put in the contract of exactly what type of overlay he was doing?
Yeah, I was just trying to open it to look, and I'm not able to open it at this moment. So.
Okay, that's fine. We can go through that a little bit later. Okay, go ahead, Yvonne.
well, I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, I guess on the pattern, he was pretty symmetric. He was pretty. I mean, he did use a 3-tone color on the brick pattern, which is not so bad. I can see some pink on some of the bricks, which I can see why that happened. He used a different type of caulking. He used a caulking that you don't use on overlays because you can't cover it. Like that stuff is so strong. It's rubber, so you can't paint or you can't cover rubber.
Right. Right.
So besides from that, I mean, if he actually explained on the contract, I know he probably didn't explain to the homeowner, but if he put it in writing what type of product he was using, well, I mean, you got that right, but if he didn't mention any of that, well, he just did a crappy job.
Okay. So in your opinion, you don't think this is a very good job, or you just don't know until you know what type of product he was using?
Yeah, well, I mean, anybody that is in the concrete industry knows better. You know, every job is going to recommend your name, and it's going to speak of who you are. I would be ashamed to do something like that, because, you know, my reputation goes down the drain with something like that.
Absolutely.
If I don't know what I'm doing, I'd rather walk away and say, you know what, hire a professional that knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
Rather than try to do something I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah,
exactly. Hey, Yvonne, I appreciate you chiming in. That's awesome. So we're going to let some of the YouTube viewers that happen to be watching right now, or later on, if you happen to catch this video, we'd love for you to put your comments in. And Yvonne, I appreciate you coming on. That's Yvonne with Integra Construction of Colorado. They do concrete installation, concrete overlays. They do all types of concrete work, and they do awesome work. He's actually been on my referral list at All About Driveways for almost, I think, about 10 years, and he's also at Trust Patrick. So, Yvonne, I appreciate you chiming in. I appreciate it very much. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, so Sarah, thanks for telling us your story. I think that that kind of gives you an idea of a guy looking at pictures and who's been in the business for 18 years and what his opinion is. And I'd really like to hear Gilbert's side of the story. And he's the owner of the company. I'd really like to hear what he has to say, because it's obviously important to always hear two sides of the story before I come to a conclusion. And so we're going to give Gilbert a chance. What's the name of his company again, Sarah?
Northwest. Let me look it again so I don't say it wrong. But I did want to say something too. Northwest Custom Concrete.
Okay. And they're out of, is it Tacoma?
I'm in Tacoma. They're actually out more towards, I think, Umatilla.
Towards where?
Umatilla.
Okay, I didn't quite understand.
It's a different
city. Okay.
You say Tacoma.
But they service the Tacoma area, obviously. Tacoma, Washington, we're talking about, and that's kind of their service territory.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, the bottom line is we're going to give Gilbert a chance to call in, and we'll do another show, and we'll get Gilbert's side of the story and see what happens. But you said that you wanted to say something else?
I just wanted to say thanks for your show. My husband and I were pretty stuck on what to do. We've been praying about it, talking about it, and he actually heard you on some news. They were interviewing you, and he came to me. I'm like, oh, my goodness, this is, like, very timely. So I reached out to you, and you were very approachable, and I just appreciate, you trying to help us get information, perspective, and figure out where to go from here. So
yeah, you bet. Absolutely. This is why I do what I do. We're fairly new in this arena as far as YouTube goes. We've done some stuff on TV, obviously, and we decided to move over to YouTube because we believe it's the future. And that's the whole goal of our show, Consumers Corner, is to hear people's problems, questions, people that have complaints and can't get any resolution. And you say that he won't return your calls. And, let's see if he returns my call. And let's give him a chance to tell his side of the story. And we appreciate you coming on and and telling us your story, Sarah. We're going to see what we can try to do to help you out. And hopefully we can get you some resolution. So much appreciated. And we will be in contact with you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. So there you go. There you have it, folks. I mean, there's a good example of what can go wrong. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Sarah did anything wrong, because she sounds like she, looked at pavers. She got another option. I don't know how many quotes she got for the overlay. That's something maybe I'll find out for the next show, is how many quotes she got. But listen, this is why it's so important that when you're searching for a company, that you go with a company that you know you can trust. $15,000 later, no resolution, 2 years later, and now the guy won't return their phone calls. Now, maybe he's got a legitimate reason for that. I don't know. But we're going to give him a chance to call in to the show here and tell his side of the story. And let's see if we can get him to tell us. And hopefully we can get this resolved for Sarah and her husband and try to get some sort of resolution to this whole crazy situation. It's really a pain to deal with this stuff afterwards. I've seen it many, 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 many times. And generally it's too late. I don't hear about the good things that we do, other than I do get emails on occasion where people thank me, and of course Sarah saying that means a lot. So a lot of the good things that happen we don't get to hear about because we don't know what we avoided, right? But we do always hear about a lot of the bad stuff. We probably get an average of at least a complaint a day in here. And sometimes, believe it or not, this is something else I want to say. Sometimes it's the homeowner's fault. Sometimes it's the contractor or company's fault. And, I will tell you the things that you need to do to avoid this type of situation is if you're looking for a good company, again, go to trustpatrick.com, click on Find a Pro, submit your information. And if we have a company in your area, they'll get in contact with you, up to 3 companies. We don't inundate you with more than 3 companies. We get you the 3 quotes that you're looking for. We do not call you. We don't call you. We don't bug you. We send you maybe 1 or 2 emails just to see how things are going, but we don't want to intrude. All we wanted to do was try to pass along your information to some good companies. But if you, for whatever reason, and by the way, if we don't have somebody, we will forward your information to our partner network who typically has someone. But you want to make sure that you vet these people as best you can. We're always here to try to help you. We're not going to tell you who to choose, but we will review contracts for you, and we will kind of tell you who we think we would choose. Again, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know contractual law, but we'll look and see what's in their writing. And, we'll see what probably sounds the best. And if if you give us permission, we'll call the contractor and ask them some questions. But then on the other hand, if we don't have somebody and you're out there on your own and you're just trying to get quotes, a few things that you should always do. Number 1, always get 2 to 3 quotes, depending on the size of your city. Always get 2 to 3 quotes. You really don't need to go get 15 quotes. And if you do, probably the chances are you're going to scare off the good companies, because then they think you're price shopping and all you're trying to do is, you just get the cheapest price. And, nobody wants to work with somebody like that, because the fact is that, yeah, we all want a good deal, right? We want to pay the least amount we possibly can for the best job we can get. And the bottom line is that, there are some people out there that are extremely expensive because they do incredibly good work and they just want to get paid for it. And then there's companies out there that, their prices are pretty good. They're average. They probably do almost as good of work as these guys, but, they just do good work. They're good people. They do good work, and they do their business more on volume. And so their prices are going to be a little bit less. But then you've got people that are out there that do horrible work, and they do terrible work. And they're going to tell you that these guys are ripping you off. The guys that do, that gave you the highest quote in the they're the guys that are ripping you off. There's no way this should cost that much. When in reality, these are the guys that are probably ripping you off, or they're going to try to rip you off. They want to try to persuade you into believing their story. And they're good at it. Some of these guys are unbelievable salesmen, and they can get you to believe that they could, they're going to give you the best thing for the best price, and the other guys are ripping you off. The bottom line is that you're never going to get this quality at this guy's price. It's just not going to happen. And how do you know? How do you know that? You get 3 bids, you get 3 quotes, and you look at them, and you compare them, and you find out, why is this guy's lower, and why is this guy's the highest, and why is this one, the mid? What makes them different? And then you ask them questions, and then you ask them, can you put on your contract, I want these, and this, and this, and this. And you make sure that it's all in writing. You get everything you possibly can in writing. Here's another thing. Now, I have two versions of this. There are companies out there that will ask you for a deposit. I never asked for a deposit, ever. And I did millions of dollars a year in sales. Never asked for a deposit one time. Why? Because I just don't feel like it's appropriate to ask somebody for a deposit. There are a lot of guys out there that are going to ask you for a deposit. And all a deposit to me is that you're giving them money to go and finish the last job they haven't finished because they spent the money on that one. That's all a deposit is to me. However, I do have a contractor that did tell me one time, hey, I'm taking a chance on them. You know, why can't they take a chance on me? And I get that. But in the end, this is how I would do it. If a contractor asks you for money up front, what you do is you tell them the moment you arrive on my job site with materials or your crew and equipment, whatever the case may be, you'll get your 50% down right there, or whatever their deal is. I would never give somebody 50% down and schedule it a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road. Because here's what happens. You give them a check. Okay, we're going to get you scheduled for Wednesday of 2 weeks from now. Okay. And then Wednesday rolls around in 2 weeks and they don't show up. You have to call them. Hey, where you at? Oh, I'm sorry. We got hung up on this other job. And then it turns into the next week. And then next thing you know, and I'm not saying this happens with everyone, but that's the story I hear time and time again. They get their money up front. They go do other jobs. They're behind. They're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. That's why I just don't do deposits. If a company wants my business, they're going to do it on my terms, period. And that's the attitude you should have as well. And if you're worried about offending them, you don't want to offend them, then you know what? You should probably reconsider what you're doing, because the reality is you can't have that attitude when you're giving somebody your money. And if they are offended by it, they shouldn't even be in business, because that's what it's all about. You have to prove to your customers that they've earned your trust. And you don't demand people's respect and trust. You earn their respect and trust. And homeowners, pay attention to that. They have to earn it. I did. That's all I did was earn trust and respect so that they would use my company. And then as far as the final payment, if you are not happy, never, ever, ever, never, never, never pay the bill. What you do is you call us. We'll help try to resolve the problem. But you should never pay them until you're 100% happy, because the minute that you pay them, to them, hey, we're done. They don't have to come back. And every minute that they go back to your job is money that they are losing for profits for their business, because they have to send their people back over there. But if they are still getting money from you, you still owe them money for the final payment, they're going to keep coming back, because that's money they haven't earned yet. It's a way you got to view it. So anyway, folks, we appreciate you watching the show today. Thank you so much for joining and tuning in to Consumers Corner. This is our second show. And listen, I really appreciate you watching the show. I hope you tell all your friends and family, and share this on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and let people know that there's finally some resolution out there where we're not going to back down. And we call it Consumers Corner, and you see on our intro the boxing gloves, because, hey, we're in your corner. Our goal here is to help you get resolution and not to let companies push you around. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you tune in on the next show. And do us a favor, leave some comments on this video. Email us at consumerscorner@trustpatrick.com. Text us at 866-966-2287. If you've got a problem or a question, or you have a complaint about a company, call us at 866-966-2287. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next show.